Welcome to Whispers of Chains, where we dive into stories of passion, power, and survival in the shadows of history. Today, we bring you a tale of desire, danger, and defiance. A story of a woman who was owned, yet untouchable, and a love that refused to be silenced. Before we begin, this story contains themes of adult intimacy, emotional tension, and intense situations that may be unsettling for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Now prepare yourself for a journey where love, lust, and freedom collide, and nothing is ever as it seems. Mara Caldwell, a woman owned, but untouched, learned early that silence came in many forms. The polite silence of a dinner table, the obedient silence of servants, and the silence of a body that had stopped expecting an answer, the one she carried with her. Her husband, Silas Caldwell, was not cruel, respected, orderly, gentle in public. Yet in their shared bed, his touch felt transactional, his back always turned, their bodies kept apart. Nights were heavy with unfulfilled presents, mornings brief and forgettable, and Mara felt unfinished. Then she noticed Josiah Reed. Unlike everyone else, he moved without hurry or fear, carrying himself with calm restraint. Their eyes met once, just long enough to be felt. Something passed between them, silent, uninvited, but undeniable. Mara's heart betrayed her careful mind. They spoke in fragments at first, innocuous exchanges that hid an electric awareness. A brush of his wrist sent heat through her. Every step, every glance became charged. The silence around them was no longer empty. It was alive. Mara realized she had been starved, not for romance, not for pleasure, but for response. Josiah saw her. He listened. He stayed. The simple act of attention unsettled her, made her ache, and yet she leaned into it, letting moments linger, letting herself feel, knowing the danger, knowing the rules, but unable to stop. When he hesitated to leave one afternoon, their eyes met, unflinching, and for the first time, Mara understood the shape of her own hunger. She knew, with a thrilling certainty, that this, whatever it was only beginning. Mara and Josiah began to exist in the same spaces, as if fate arranged it. Accidental encounters, too frequent to be chance, tightened the invisible thread between them. Proximity became its own language. They learned the sound of each other's breathing before words. Heat, silence, the faint scent of wood smoke and sweat, it all made Mara feel undone. Shedding layers no one could see. Rain trapped them together in the tool shed. The storm turned the world into a roar, isolating them in damp warmth. Distance shortened slowly, inevitably. She leaned against the workbench. He braced against the wall. Awareness sharpened like a knife. "You should go back," he whispered. "I know," she replied. Neither moved. The pull was undeniable. Their eyes met, his gaze restrained, memorizing her without touching. "If I stay," he murmured, "I don't know how long I can keep pretending this doesn't matter." Mara swallowed. "I don't want you to pretend." One step, then another, close enough to feel the warmth, the brush of air. Her hand lifted, hovering over his chest, trembling with restraint. His breath shuddered. "Say the word," he murmured, "and I'll step back." She did not speak it. Instead, her fingers rested lightly against his shirt. Electric, devastating. He closed his eyes, forehead nearly touching hers. Suspended in the shape of what they wanted without claiming it. When the rain eased, they separated silently. Mara walked away, body humming, mind sharp. That night, beside Silas's distance, she felt more alive and more alone than ever. Temptation became constant. Glances held too long, hands brushing. Moments where his presence pressed against her without being seen. Once, while helping her down from a stool, his hands lingered at her waist, a fraction too long. Her breath hitched. He felt it. Fingers tightened reflexively, then released. "Forgive me," he said softly. "Don't," she whispered. Dangerous. Irresistible. Every day the cost of restraint grew heavier. The world demanded rules carved in iron, but their nearness became unbearable. They were no longer just aware of each other. They were waiting for a moment, a mistake, a reason, or the courage to choose desire over survival. This meeting ended not with a kiss, not with a touch fully claimed, but with certainty. Once temptation is allowed this close, it does not fade. It demands an answer. By now, Mara and Josiah had learned to communicate without words. Every glance carried meaning, every touch, however fleeting, was electric. Yet the world outside remained relentless, demanding obedience and punishing desire. Secrecy became their most intimate act. It started with notes. Tiny scraps of paper slipped between books, tucked into baskets, hidden in the folds of cloth. Each word was coded, delicate, daring. Meet me where the old oak bends toward the river. Bring the basket, not your eyes. The thrill of secrecy awakened Mara in ways she had never imagined. She moved through her day acutely aware that a single glance from him could undo everything. And every stolen moment, every brush of fingertips, carried a weight far heavier than any public display could ever bear. One evening, Josiah waited at the bend of the river. The sky bruised purple and gold. Mara approached slowly, her breath catching when she saw him leaning casually against the old oak, yet every line of his body radiating tension, longing, and unspoken need. Without a word, he reached out. Not to touch her fully, but enough, just the tip of his fingers brushing her hand as she placed the basket down. The contact was brief, a whisper of fire along her skin, and she gasped softly. "Do you know what you do to me?" he murmured, voice low and rough. She started, but no words could capture the ache rising in her chest. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "Every time we meet like this, I want more." She shivered under the intensity of his gaze. Every secret meeting, every near touch, had been building to this, yet the danger only made it sweeter. The rain began to fall softly, and without thinking, Mara lifted her face. Josiah bent to meet her halfway. Their lips brushed, lightly, tentatively, testing boundaries, a kiss that was half confession, half promise. It lingered just long enough to awaken something primal, something neither of them could ignore. But they pulled away, hearts hammering, because the world would not allow indulgence. Every glance over her shoulder reminded Mara that this closeness could be fatal if discovered. Their meetings became more daring, shadows and empty barns, hidden alcoves beneath the grand estate, even a quiet grove by the river where no one would think to look. Every stolen touch, every whisper of skin against skin, became a dangerous game of how far can we go before someone sees. One night, Mara found herself pressed against the wooden planks of the barn, his hand on her waist, fingers tracing the curve of her hip, his lips ghosting near her ear. "Do you trust me?" he asked. The question was soft, yet carried a weight that made her knees weak. "I do," she whispered, though her voice trembled. "Then let me in, Mara," he said, and for the first time, they let the world disappear. Clothing became a barrier to shed, barriers of restraint fell away, and every lingering brush of skin, every gentle exploration, became a testament to the trust, the hunger, the closeness they had long denied. They discovered a universe in each other's hands, in each other's sighs, in the warmth pressed against the darkness of a cold, dangerous night. Every touch, every murmur was a rebellion. Every kiss was a defiance of the rules that sought to cage them. Yet intimacy, in their world, always came with risk. One night, as they lay hidden beneath the floorboards of an abandoned cabin, Mara whispered, "If anyone finds us." "I know," Josiah replied, pulling her closer, his lips brushing the crown of her head. "But I can't stay away. I won't." And in that clandestine embrace, Mara realized that secrets, shared, held, and hidden, could be more intimate than any public display of affection, more thrilling than any society-sanctioned interaction. But the storm outside was building. Shadows moved at the edge of the estate, and whispers of suspicion began to stir. Every stolen moment became more dangerous. Every clandestine touch carried the weight of consequence. Mara and Josiah were lying together, bodies entwined in the dark, hearts beating as one, knowing that what they had found in each other was as perilous as it was irresistible, and that the coming days would demand choices that could either unite them forever or destroy them completely. The estate was buzzing with whispers, rumors of Mara's absences, the subtle glances shared with Josiah, the faint scent of rebellion that clung to the air like smoke. Every secret meeting they had risked discovery, and the walls seemed to have eyes now, as if the house itself wanted to expose them. Mara knew it was only a matter of time. Yet desire, fierce and uncompromising, had claimed her. She couldn't stay away. Every fiber of her being ached for him, and Josiah's presence was a tether to the life she longed for. A life of passion, choice, and dangerous freedom. That evening, as dusk bled into night, they met beneath the old oak again. Rain drizzled lightly, mist curling around their faces. His hands found her, fingers threading through her hair, tracing the line of her jaw. The danger amplified every sensation, every touch. "I can't stop thinking about you," Josiah admitted, voice husky, lips brushing her neck. "Even if someone sees." "Even if, I know," Mara whispered, pressing her lips to his. Their kiss deepened, urgent and trembling, as if the world outside didn't exist. They moved together beneath the shadows of the trees, exploring a closeness that was both reckless and inevitable. Mara's hands roamed his chest, feeling the tension in his muscles, the promise in his grip. Every stolen moment became an affirmation. Their connection was more than desire. It was survival, defiance, and affirmation of their very humanity. But the world, cruel and unyielding, had been watching. A sudden shout echoed across the grounds. Lights flickered in the distance. Mara froze, heart hammering, and Josiah's arms tightened around her. "They saw us," he whispered. The word hung in the air like a guillotine. Mara's breath caught. Everything they had risked, every whispered word and hidden caress, was on the verge of exposure. They ran through the darkened estate, bodies pressed together, not only from fear but from need, their hands clinging to each other as if release from one another would be death. A sharp voice pierced the night. "Stop. You there." The chase was immediate. Guards, or perhaps servants loyal to the master of the house, pursued them. The intimacy that had once been a refuge now became a liability. Every brush of skin, every stolen kiss could betray them. Mara's pulse raced not only from lust but from terror. They ducked into an abandoned carriage shed, bodies pressed together in the shadows, gasping and trembling. Josiah's lips found hers in a kiss that was desperate and fiery, hands gripping her, as if he could anchor her to safety through sheer force of will. "Mara," he whispered, "if they catch us, I don't care," she said, eyes blazing. "I'd rather die with you than live apart from you." It was a declaration that blurred the line between passion and recklessness. Their bodies moved together in the shadowed cabin, pressed to the wooden walls, trembling with a mixture of fear, desire, and adrenaline. Every kiss, every touch, was an act of rebellion. Every sigh a tiny victory over the chains of a cruel world. But the pursuit was relentless. The guards forced the shed door open. A struggle ensued, shouts cutting through the night. Mara and Josiah fought, clinging to each other even as the world threatened to pull them apart. The danger sharpened their connection, turning every stolen caress into an act of defiance. Finally, in a moment of desperation, Mara remembered the secret path Josiah had shown her weeks before. She grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the overgrown trail that led beyond the estate, into the dense woods. They ran, bodies entwined, hearts pounding, breath ragged, fear and desire driving them forward. Hours later, soaked and exhausted, They collapsed in the underbrush, hidden from the world. The rain slicked their hair, clung to their clothes, and their bodies ached with both exertion and longing. Mara turned to him, lips meeting his in a kiss that was urgent, tender, and unrelenting. Fingers threaded through hair, hands exploring the familiar curves and planes they had longed for. Bodies pressing together as if the night itself could not contain their passion. "I don't care if they call this a crime," Mara murmured against his lips. "This is real. This is freedom." Josiah's hands held her close. Every touch, every caress, a vow. "Then let them try to stop us," he said, voice low, filled with heat and promise. "No law, no master, no fear can take this from us." They stayed entwined beneath the stars, bodies and hearts claiming what the world had tried to deny them. Desire, exposed as crime, had become their shield, their rebellion, and their sanctuary. And as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Mara and Josiah knew that whatever came next, pursuit, punishment, exile, they would face it together. Passion and courage intertwined, unstoppable. The act closes on a cliffhanger. The distant sound of hoofbeats and voices approaches. Mara and Josiah rise, bodies still entwined, and flee into the forest, the promise of freedom and the consequences of forbidden love, driving them forward into the unknown. The forest blurred around them as Mara and Josiah ran, branches tearing at skin and clothes, hearts pounding not only from exertion, but from desire that refused to be silenced. Every step was risk, every shadow a threat, yet their bodies found fleeting safety, lips meeting even as danger pursued them. Hours later, they collapsed by a hidden stream, soaked, trembling, yet alive. Josiah brushed hair from Mara's face, fingers tracing her jawline, memorizing it. "You're still here," he whispered. "We made it, together," she replied. Relief melted into passion. Bodies collided, hands exploring, lips meeting in urgent, desperate need. The forest became their private world, where every stolen touch was a vow of survival, a declaration that desire could flourish under threat. Hours, or moments, passed indistinguishable. Every caress, every kiss, a rebellion. Every sigh, a defiance of the rules that sought to cage them. Mara rested her head against Josiah's chest, foreheads pressed together, sharing warmth no pursuer could take. Footsteps echoed, reality intruded. "We have to keep moving," Josiah whispered, hand lingering. "Not yet, not ever," Mara breathed, lips brushing his collarbone. They moved again, glances and touches reaffirming the intimacy they refused to relinquish. Weeks turned into months. Safe houses, sympathetic strangers, the ever-present threat of capture. Each night in hiding became a reclamation of freedom. Whispered confessions, lingering touches, love affirmed in the dark. Finally, Canada, a land of safety, where their bodies and hearts could belong fully to each other. Josiah claimed Mara beneath the stars, hands and lips exploring every denied contour, each touch a promise that longing could bloom when nurtured by freedom. A modest home became sanctuary, nights filled with slow, unhurried exploration of every scar, every curve, every remembered touch. Mara wrote again, chronicling horrors survived, love sustained, intimacy that had kept them alive. Years passed. Children, laughter, quiet intimacy. Even in old age, the fire that had driven them to flee, to touch, to defy, remained alive. The subtle brush of skin, lingering kisses, whispered reassurances, desire. Though the past lingered, they had carved a world where longing was celebrated, passion safe, love triumphant. In their rooms, in their sanctuary, desire lived fully, unrestrained, unshadowed, everlasting. Mara and Josiah entwined beneath a night sky, hands tracing, eyes closed, hearts bound, love vivid and unbreakable. The world beyond uncertain, yet their bond absolute. The fire of longing now burned openly, eternal. The night was heavy with smoke, acrid and suffocating. Mara and Josiah returned to the estate one last time, chasing whispers of trapped souls, unfinished stories, secrets demanding rescue. The mansion loomed, flames devouring it like hungry serpents. Inside, the heat pressed against their bodies, sweat-soaked clothes clinging, muscles taut, hearts hammering with fear and desire. Every step, every brush of skin, shivered with terror and intimacy intertwined. A scream pierced the inferno. Josiah seized her hand, guiding her through smoke-thick halls. Their bodies pressed together, lips meeting briefly, a spark amid chaos. They found a victim pinned under charred beams, Josiah lifting, Mara whispering comfort, breasts and arms brushing in desperate closeness. The second floor groaned under fire. Mara clung to Josiah's neck. Their lips met in a desperate kiss, tasting smoke, fear, and unspoken promises. A locked door separated them from another trapped soul. Fingers trembled, hands brushing, intertwining, hearts racing. When the lock gave, Josiah kissed her softly, a vow, a shared exhale, a promise of survival. Every corridor, every narrow escape became a dance of danger and intimacy. Bodies moving in perfect unspoken rhythm, trust, desire, devotion conveyed through touch alone. At last, the grand hall collapsed, embers raining down. Josiah pressed Mara close, foreheads touching, lips brushing. We go together, no one left behind. They plunged into the night, carrying the helpless, bodies pressed tight, sweat and ash mingling. Every breath a reminder of life and love. By the riverbank, survivors gasped, hearts racing. Mara leaned into Josiah, his hand tracing her neck, lips finding hers, triumphant, tender, raw desire tasting of survival. Hours passed with fire painting the sky, their hands exploring, bodies pressed together, every caress reclaiming freedom and longing. Weeks followed of guiding survivors north, nights in hidden rooms where passion could bloom unafraid, hands and lips rediscovering each other, reaffirming love stronger than fear, cruelty, and confinement. Finally, Canada. Freedom. A quiet cabin, snow-laden forests. Clothing discarded, skin pressed to skin, lips and hands celebrating liberty, passion, and the bond forged through fire, danger, and love. Here, longing found its home, not in secrecy, but in absolute, unrestrained freedom to live, love, and desire. The old world burned, but from its ashes, Mara and Josiah's love blazed brighter than ever. The snow-dusted roads of the north felt like silk beneath Mara's boots, a soft contrast to the scorched earth she had left behind. Every mile carried them further from chains, from fire, from a world built on cruelty, and closer to the life she and Josiah had dreamed of for so long. They moved cautiously, guiding the group of survivors through forests and across frozen rivers. Each night they stopped in hidden cabins, safe houses lined with blankets, firewood, and sympathetic smiles. In these moments, the terror of the South melted, replaced by something new, something daring, the full embodiment of freedom. At one such cabin, Josiah pulled Mara close beside the hearth, his hands lingering at the curve of her waist, tracing the line of her spine through her travel-worn coat. Their kisses were slow, hungry, a language of survival and reclamation. Heat coursed through them, igniting the passion that had simmered through years of stolen glances and brief touches. Mara pressed her body against his, feeling the pulse of life, the hard muscles under his hands, the warmth they shared in contrast to the frigid night outside. Clothes became cumbersome, restrictive. Each layer removed was a symbolic shedding of bondage. Their bodies entwined in the flickering firelight, hands and mouths learning every scar and curve. A celebration of freedom made flesh. Outside, the world was still dangerous, still uncertain. But inside the cabin, Mara and Josiah were untouchable, sovereign over their own bodies and desires. Every kiss, every sigh, every lingering touch was an affirmation that they belonged only to each other and to no one else. Morning brought frost on the windows and the crunch of snow underfoot. Mara stretched in Josiah's arms, their skin still warm from the night's intimacy. "We're almost there," he whispered, brushing hair from her face. Almost home, and she believed him. Because for the first time, home didn't mean a house, a title, or a name on a ledger. Home meant being fully seen, fully desired, and fully free. Their journey north was arduous, but hope carried them further than fear ever could. Each time they rested, each time they protected those who had risked everything for freedom, Mara and Josiah intertwined, not only physically, but emotionally, spiritually, in ways that the past had denied them. Every touch was both celebration and reassurance. Survival had not dulled their desire, it had sharpened it. When they finally crossed into Canadian territory, the group paused on a snow-covered hill, overlooking a small, welcoming town. Mara inhaled the crisp northern air, Josiah's hand warm in hers, the other brushing the small of her back. She closed her eyes, imagining a life without fear, without hiding, without limits. That evening, in a modest but sunlit house they rented, Mara and Josiah made love not as a secret stolen in fear, but as a declaration, a ceremony of liberation. Their bodies moved in perfect rhythm, a dance of recovery and yearning, each caress, kiss, and whisper marking the territory of a life finally, irrevocably their own. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Mara began recording their journey, documenting not only the horrors they had survived, but the freedom they had carved from danger, fire, and desire. Josiah worked alongside her, hands and minds intertwined, supporting every word, every thought, every dream. At night, their bodies spoke a language no ledger, no law, no master could ever touch. They built a home together, a sanctuary of warmth, laughter, and sensual delight. Mara's hands, once used for servitude, now traced Josiah's skin with reverent curiosity. Josiah's lips, once silent with fear, whispered Mara's name with devotion and lust, and around them, the liberated survivors who had trusted them flourished, finding work, building families, sharing stories, and feeling the electric joy of autonomy. The final scene of the act is quiet, intimate, and powerful. Mara and Josiah standing on a hill, wrapped in each other's arms, snow falling around them, the northern lights dancing overhead. Every touch, every kiss, every lingering glance is proof of their journey, through danger, fire, and love, to the place where their bodies and souls were free at last. They are no longer running, no longer hiding. They are fully alive, fully entwined, and fully free, the embodiment of the freedom they risked everything to claim. Desire, once forbidden, now flows without shame. Love, once hidden, now burns openly. And the world around them, harsh as it had been, is now a landscape of possibilities, waiting for them to leave their mark. Mara and Josiah were naked in body and spirit, embracing under the northern sky, a symbol of love, liberation, and the unbreakable will to live fully and freely. Years had passed. Snowy winters gave way to bright springs. The small northern town had grown around Mara and Josiah's modest home. The world outside kept moving, but inside their sanctuary, time felt softer, slower, more intimate. Mara sat in a sunlit room, her hands running over the pages of her journals. Names, stories, memories, all preserved in her careful handwriting. Some she had shared, some she had kept private, sacred as the contours of her own body. Every story, every scar, every joy, every shame she had ever carried was stored not just in ink, but in the skin of her hands, the curve of her spine, the softness of her lips. Josiah entered, carrying firewood, his eyes lighting up at the sight of her. Their gaze met, and without a word, they closed the distance between them. Hands intertwined, mouths meeting, bodies pressing together with a tenderness that spoke of decades survived, of love reclaimed and remade. They moved together slowly, deliberately, learning once again the language of each other's bodies, the silent rhythms that had been honed through years of longing, danger, and desire. Every touch remembered, every sigh echoed, every curve recognized. Their intimacy was not just passion, it was memory made flesh, history written in the delicate architecture of skin and bone. Mara traced Josiah's shoulder with the back of her fingers. "We survived," she whispered, voice low, reverent. "All of it. Every fire, every chain, every fear." Josiah held her closer, pressing his forehead to hers. "And we kept each other. Every part of us that mattered, the rest of the world tried to steal." Their bodies fit together like old familiar architecture, the weight and warmth of each other grounding them in the truth they had fought so hard to claim, that their desire, their love, and the life they had built were theirs alone. The body remembers, Mara thought, remembers the fear, the pain, the ecstasy, the freedom. And the body keeps those memories as proof of survival, as evidence that they were more than the world had ever allowed them to be. Outside, the northern wind whispered through the trees. Inside, Mara and Josiah moved together, tender and unhurried, their union a living testament to endurance, love, and desire that refused to be extinguished. The final image lingers. Two bodies entwined in sunlight and warmth, skin and soul intertwined. A quiet defiance and celebration of what they had survived, and what their bodies, at last, could keep.